Hey guys, Patrick Moran here. I want to let you know real quick before we get into today's episode of Talking Buffalo that my guest today is Joe from Queens. And if you're a regular listener or watcher of this show, you will know that Joe has been on this show many, many times from the birth of it in 2018 up until last June. What happened at that time was Joe and I had a significant personal falling out, and that resulted in Joe not being on this show for over 8.5 months until literally today. Why do I tell you this right here at the top? Because we have plenty of Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres talk, and we sneak in a few minutes of wrestling at the end. This is a long episode, about 90 minutes. But I know for some of you, you're not really going to give a shit about the personal details. And I wanted to let you know the first 40 to 43 minutes or so of this podcast is actually Joe and I talking about a lot of the beefs that we have with each other that led to what he calls a breakup, what I call a falling out, and Joe not being on the show for like I said, a very long time. Want to let you know that because if you're only here for the Bills and the Sabres talk, which I completely understand. In fact, that's why I'm kind of recording this disclaimer right here at the very top. Just fast forward through the first, say, 42, 43 minutes, and you won't have to sit through that conversation. You can get into the sports talk portion of this episode. But to be honest, I think it's a candid conversation that Joe and I had. Pretty interesting, pretty open, pretty honest. So hopefully you'll want to stick around for that entire thing. But if you don't, and you're only here for football and sports talk, just fast forward to about 42, 43-minute mark, and you'll be all set. On that note, let's get into it. Today's episode of Talking Buffalo. All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, for following, for subscribing. I appreciate you all. This is our Monday episode. I'll tell you what, I'm a lifelong fan of wrestling, WWE more specifically. For years and years, you would always hear from Vince McMahon, who would always say anything can happen in the WWE. I guess we're going to take that today and translate it into the Talking Buffalo podcast world, because I am joined right now for the first time in a good solid 8.5, almost 9 months, Joe from Queens at Buffalo Wins on Twitter. It's been a long time, and we're going to talk about that too, right here, pretty much at the top. But anyway, man, what is going on? How you doing? This is our first physical of sort conversation we've had in quite a long time, man. How you doing?
I'm all right. Getting as much sleep as I can with the new baby who's now 7 months old.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything is kind of chaotic. We just put up the fuck is it called? We can still swear, right? I know it's been like 7.5 months. Or are you not corporate Pat? And I can't say any of that now. But we put up I forgot what the hell it's called. It's like that big thing you throw a baby in. It's like the size of a room almost. Whatever. It's like it's like a tent kind of in a way. I forgot what the fuck it's called. But whatever. We put that in. So the guest room is gone now because that's now his little playroom. And he took over my man cave. I probably complained about that maybe the last time I was on here, but my man cave is now the baby's room. And basically I got nothing. I'm in our dining area. My cat's over here. I got a baby monitor right here in case that kid goes nuts. Yeah, here. There's you can't see it on the video, but anyway, that's like a little bit of it. Maybe you can't see it too bad. He's a cute kid. And then so if he goes crazy, I gotta run, and then Pat gets to talk to my cat, and that's about it. So it's been life changing the last 7.5 months. Not because I'm not on your podcast anymore. That's not the life changing part. The baby. And all this other stuff has been kind of terrible. My day job as a television producer, reality stuff has been horrible. If anyone hasn't kept up with the trends, the streams and the networks have all basally they're dying right now. So I haven't really worked. Unfortunately, a lot of people are struggling. So you couldn't have the worst time in my life to have a kid. Then all of a sudden the industry has a strike, and then it's like, oh, hey, all these streams are merging together And because of that, they're losing money. And when you're losing money and you merge, you're merging your libraries together. So if you're merging your libraries together, like HBO Max did with Discovery, HGTV, and all these things, you don't need to order more programming because that costs money. And then I'm a gig worker, so it's been very like, holy shit, yeah. Like, welcome to being an adult. Whereas before, if I had like a time down, I'll come back in a couple weeks. That usually happens, but this has been bad. So kids, if you're gonna get into like unscripted television production or any of that crap, have a backup plan. Be a lawyer, a dog walker, a bartender. Be like Pat, who I think knows how to make a drink. And make a pizza too at Imperial Pizza, because the industry right now, all the young kids are watching TikTok. They're not watching cable anymore. Cold cord cutting. People are stealing passwords. I'm sure Pat has 55 passwords he's stolen from streams. He probably pays for one thing probably, and that's it. But yeah, it's been I can go on forever about how tough it's been the last 7.5 months. It's been
that sucks. I mean, sucks.
It sucks. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast again, because I'm just like, I need something to occupy myself aside from changing diapers, hearing screaming, and and having to talk to your freaking ass. Don't you own anything besides a hoodie? Every podcast I see your video on Twitter, it's a hoodie.
It's my
what
thing.
Is that? Why is there a bear on there?
Is that
the bear from Amazon from Oregon Trail that you have to hunt? That's what it looks like.
No, I don't know. It's part of the North Face line. Right. I'm a hoodie guy. I'm a hoodie guy for a few reasons.
I'm a hoodie guy too, but I don't wear it every day.
Oh, I don't wear this one. That's my thing. And when I say I'm a hoodie guy, like people collect, some people, you probably have a shitload of t-shirts. You know what I mean? You might be
I do, yeah.
More of a t-shirt guy. I'm not a t-shirt guy. I'm a hoodie guy for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm just comfortable in them. I get cold really easy. Even when I lived in Florida, like I wore hoodies when pretty much nobody else did. I just feel more comfortable in a hoodie. Kind of hides being fat a little bit at times. You know what I mean? I feel a little bit more thinner in hoodies.
I have hoodies too. I just don't wear them all the time. Like I've gotten these wrestling hoodies, which I've been really into. Like they're like roots of something I forgot, but they have like old school, like Bret Hart, Roddy Piper hoodies I have, and they're awesome and they're very comfortable. And but yeah, hoodies are cool. I'm just saying, like, you always wear hoodies on this thing. Like I don't know what anyone else does. Like you got the hoodie.
Even in the summer, I pretty much have a hoodie on. At least when I do a show in my home studio. If we go out to do them live and it's hot, then it's a t-shirt or a polo shirt.
Yeah,
different story. All right, so here's the deal, man. We're going to talk some Bills. We're going to talk some Sabres. Maybe we'll jam in a little bit of wrestling talk. It is WrestleMania season. We both are big wrestling marks. I don't get an opportunity really to have guests on who even care about wrestling, let alone want to talk about that. So we'll kind of stuff that down. Maybe a little bit.
Tone Pucks doesn't want to talk about Jimmy Snuka or anything like that.
Tone Pucks has never been a wrestling fan his whole life.
Wow.
Never really got into it at all. Tone Pucks is a fantasy baseball guy. Tone Pucks he loves baseball. Baseball is his favorite sport. Fantasy baseball is his thing. He's one of those deep dive guys too. Like he could tell you prospects in every organization.
I should have him. I'm in a fantasy baseball league and I know like 6 baseball players. And I was in it last year and I did okay. Like I finished, I think 5th or something, but if he's listening to this now, if he wants to draft my team, he can draft my team. I'm not going to give him anything, but
I get a feeling, Joe, a lot of people are going to be listening to this for various reasons.
Oh, God.
One of them is going to be kind of, well, people know, I mean, it's fairly well documented that, you used to be on the podcast a lot and you have not been on the show since I had to look it up. June 10th was the last time you were on, which was before training camp even started.
Before I became a father, too.
Before you became a dad, because your kid was born in July, correct? If I remember correctly.
July 18th. Gotta get that right.
Wow. Yeah, so coming up like I said, you said 8 months old, man. Time just fucking flies. But
man.
Let's start here, man. And I want to let people know who are listening, who are watching. We talked earlier today being Sunday, that be on the podcast tonight. I said we're going to talk some Bills, some Sabres, maybe a little social media, a little WWE, and we're going to discuss the hiatus. Like we're going to be candid about talking about like some of the behind the shit scenes that kind of went down between us, at least to some extent anyway, because I know some people probably been wondering about that. I can tell you there were definitely people who have said to me throughout the months, when's Joe going to be on? Where's Joe? You know what I mean? And kind of just, I really don't discuss it with other people or whatever. Let's start here because for a while, again, you haven't been on the podcast since last June. We've talked, like we've been friendly with each other for a good handful of months now.
No,
we talk on Facebook.
When we broke up,
you call it a breakup. Yeah,
when we broke up our podcast, my thing, I came back to you like a week later and said, "Hey, we can still be friends.
Yeah,
I'm just never going to talk to you about your podcast or Bill's content bros ever again." But that was it.
Right.
Like we talked, and then it slowly.
We had a cold period though, very cold period.
But I was also busy. I had a kid, so I couldn't like go and fucking be like, "Excuse me, honey, I got to go and take a dump and talk to Pat while on the phone." Like I couldn't do that. So.
Right, but there was definitely a time period where we talked rarely. I should say there was definitely a period where we were going at it with each other privately. Of course, our beefs are always you and I arguing on Facebook Messenger. You and I, not on Twitter, not like a Twitter feud when you sound that media on media crime alert when you see people publicly fighting. Our shit was always between you and I and behind the scenes. But there was definitely a time where we really weren't talking at all. And then there was a time where we started talking gradually, more regularly.
We were still talking. Like, as I said, I went from I'm never talking to that asshole ever again. Fuck him. And then like a week and a half later, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm bored at home. This kid's driving me crazy. I need to waste my time. So I messaged you and said, hey, look, we can. But yeah, it wasn't like a daily, like, part of, I think, like, why we had a falling out a little bit was like I was talking to you every day because I was waiting. I just had the kid. I think we got into a fight around training camp, like around in the middle of August. So I was home every day with this kid, and I was kind of like I needed like an outlet, and I was yelling at Pat as my outlet because I had this baby at home and I wasn't working. I was taking care of him, so I kind of needed that, a little bit of that. I think I kind of a little bit.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. Anyway, I want to let people know too. Like, so when I said we talked earlier today about doing the show tonight, and we're going to talk Sabres, Bills, our falling out, our breakup, whatever you want to call it. But one thing we did not do was talk any details. Like, I'm going to ask you this, or you're going to tell me this. You know what I mean? This is all like kind of spontaneous on the spot, this conversation.
We're already 10 and a half minutes in and we haven't gotten to the point. So let's get to the point. Let's go.
All right. So let's start here then. My question is for you, from your point of view, what led to you not wanting to do the podcast anymore? Like you said, we broke up with the podcast, and also at that time, and I'd be open, be honest, we're adults here. We can talk to each other and to everybody who's watching and listening, but also on a personal level, like what about me or what about our friendship, our relationship, pissed you off to some extent? I'm down to hear it. I'm good.
All right. I thought for like from like maybe February of 2023 to August, I thought you were a fucking egomaniac, and I couldn't fucking handle you and your podcast, and I couldn't handle you. And I, we can agree on the Bills, and we can agree on the Sabres, wrestling, probably all that. You and I just do not agree on what makes good content, and I kind of kept feeling like you were getting sick and tired of me talking about what I thought was good content. And some of it was from you, but most of it was from the Bills bro beats and then the Bills content bros and all those people. And I think it just, me calling you pandering Pat, I think I called you one too many times and you just got sick of it. And I think
sometimes it is funny. I will say that. I didn't interrupt you.
There were moments that I just, like, I can recite that I just couldn't deal with your shit anymore. Like I would say like the last 2 or 3 weeks, there were instances where like I kept telling you how I thought training camp content was horrible. It's my least favorite part of the NFL calendar year. It's always a bunch of bullshit, empty calories, stuff that no one is going to remember a month later. Like the hype of Justin Short or Andy Isabella or fucking whoever. I was like, this is so stupid. And you kept trying to be like, no, this is good content, man. I'm watching all these other podcasts, their streams, and they got all these numbers. They're doing well. I'm like, I don't care if they're doing well. It's stupid. And like, I felt like you were getting caught up into like this echo chamber of what the Bills content people think is great. And you would kind of watch what they thought was good, and you would be like, oh, that's what you need to sell. And it was just getting on my nerves, like my last, like that was something that annoyed me. Then you and I got into an argument about you tried to tell me that Gabe, like 9 out of 10 Bills fans care more about Gabe Davis, how they look in training camp, than they cared about a Tim Graham piece about Ron Racoulier getting fired. And I was like, that's bullshit. I'm like, I think more people do care about that than give a fuck about Gabe Davis in training camp. And it was just all this petty bullshit. But I think what set me off at the end was I'm not going to say who it was, but I got into an argument with someone, a guy from the media, about a just innocuous debate. And we went back and forth. It got testy. I thought he was abrasive. I was a little abrasive. And then you yelled at me for being abrasive to him. And then the next day you yelled at me because I told you that I felt Andy Isabella, the reason why there were some people who cared about him was because he was the white wide receiver. And you were flabbergasted that I would say that. And then you messaged me and said, from now on, I don't want you to talk bad about the media on my podcast. And I was like, fuck you. I'll talk whoever the fuck I want to talk about on the fucking podcast. And you sent me like this novel email. And then I was like, fuck you. I'm not reading this. We're done. We're breaking up. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt overall like there were things I could have been better at. I was definitely abrasive. I made fun of you too much about being pandering, Pat, even though I do think you did at that time pander to them a lot. And it was annoying the shit out of me. But I should have just let it go and be like, oh, I'm just joking. And again, I was at home. I was with a kid. I was bored. And I was, that sort of stuff. I also think you were going through a midlife podcast crisis where you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do with your podcast. And you were talking like, oh, I'm going to go. And everyone knows who's listening to this. You do 5 days a week. You got an all 22 fucking subscription, for fuck's sakes. I'm like, what are you? You're not like, you got a telestrator now? Like you got that. And you were going through all these, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to get to the next level? And I think you looked at me and were like, oh, I can't have this guy on. He subtweeted the death of Donald Trump. What if the guy at Imperial Pizza who hates Joe Biden listens to this and goes, I can't listen to that woke psycho. And like I felt like you were kind of going into that stage where you were trying to be like, oh, I can't have Joe on. And I just felt like I felt like you were like kicking me to the side a little bit, and you weren't respecting me as much about my sports acumen. And I felt like you just took me for granted. Like you asked me to come on whenever you wanted. I was always there. I was there with you from day fucking one. Next to Joe Yurden, I was on this podcast more than probably anyone else. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like it was it was definitely a testy, like it could have been handled better, but you were just getting on my nerves. I think sometimes like on the Facebook message thing, it's just one of those things that you have, I'll give you credit. Like I gave you a lot of shit. I still think like you were going through a lot, and I still think you're an ass kisser of some of those media guys. At least, look, I haven't really paid attention to you. Don't take it the wrong way, but I haven't. But outside, like on Twitter, but outside of our Facebook conversations, I feel you've kind of come down a little bit on that, maybe. But like you said, like you didn't want to have the straw. You didn't want to bite the hand that fed you because you were scared that the media wouldn't go on your fucking Imperial Pizza party thing if I was here. And I was like, they're gonna come and see you. Like it's free pizza. That they go to Adolf Hitler's freaking gun range to talk about their life stories. They get free pizza, and like I just felt like you were just like, oh, you were a little bit just, your ego was a little bit out of there, and I just was like, I can't tail this with me having a kid, and then me, sometimes you get on the social media and you get it's like the pink slime from fucking Ghostbusters 2, and it gets you very agitated and angry, and like looking back, it's like, yeah, I shouldn't have fucking like been that upset. Who gives a fuck? It's a podcast with Pat, like, but I just felt like you were just defending them so vigorously for things that had nothing to do really with, like, you weren't even in the way. Like it was between me or them or me just talking to you, and I was giving you way too much shit. And I even said I was sorry when we like officially broke up. I'm like, look, I'm sorry about that. And yeah, that was it. I felt the thing with like the Trump and like that thing pissed me off, because like we talked about like Trump on this podcast 100 different times, and all of a sudden you were like, oh, you subtweeted his death. And I was like, I barely talked about politics on my Twitter feed this last like 16 months. I've been very good about it. And I'm like, and I just felt like you were going through this. Oh, I got to get this audience member. What if someone who's not woke or is going to listen to this podcast and hear this asshole. And I just, it should have been, it shouldn't have came down that way, but it did. So yeah. That's
well, I appreciate the candidness. I do. I could look, I'm not that soft. I could accept criticism, especially when it's warranted. I think some of what you said for sure is definitely warranted. I'll say this because I do remember this, having this conversation with you, and I also had it with Tone Bucks. I think one of our disconnects on a personal level as it relates to, say, this podcast, and a lot of what you said is right. So again, I'm putting it out there that I don't think, I'm not sitting there and saying, oh, you're wrong. You look at it from the content side and the creative side, which is perfectly reasonable and fair. But I do look at it from a brand standpoint. I do look at it from a numbers standpoint, always trying to get better and grow the audience as much as I can. And I do remember talking with you saying about politics mainly. I don't want political shit. Like, can you not fucking tweet about how much you hate Donald Trump? Not just you, by the way, also Tone Bucks. Tone Bucks was, I've been friends with that dude for 35, 36 years. And we've had this cycle since we were 15 years old. BFFs falling out. Reconcile, BFFs falling out. Forever. That's been me and
Tone you had a falling out with him because he yelled at one. I think Sal Mariana. He yelled at, and you got pissed off at him, and you stopped talking to him for a year.
I did. Remember that. I remember that. We've had a lot of beefs, me and Tone, through the years. But anyway, my point is, I told him the same thing. You and I talked about it because my you got to understand too where I come from. This is primarily a sports podcast, right? I mean, we primarily talk Bills and Sabres. We also talk life, which I think makes us a little different than a lot of other Buffalo shows. But when not you, anybody, not Joe.
No, me. It's me. Queens. The story's about me, though.
It is, but whether it's you or anybody, my point is this: when you have a strong take on politics and you are openly endorsing or hating on one side or the other, you're going to lose half your audience. I don't want to lose half my audience because of Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And I'm not, for what it's worth. And this was before I ever had a podcast. I've been an independent for 20 something years.
But here's my issue.
And you told me to fuck myself basically when I told you that, which actually is
because
funny.
Here's two things. One, you said to me that, well, Del Reed's employee wouldn't have said that. Wouldn't talk about Trump. I'm like, well, one, you don't pay me. I come on this podcast for the goodness of my heart.
And I did say Del. I forgot.
Two, what I felt was stupid was you and I have talked politics on this podcast before. We have talked about COVID. We have talked about Trump. We've talked about it. And I can recall like 6-8 different times. We talked about it. And we haven't talked about it since the last election in 2020. So I thought that was stupid because it's like, we have talked about that. I don't necessarily agree with losing half your audience.
People will lose people if they think that we're a right-wing podcast. The left ain't listening. I'm telling you. And I did say that with Del. I'm glad your memory's way better than mine.
I remember when I get spited for, but you have to.
I did. I remember saying, is Del Reed gonna, you're trying to push 26 shirts? Is he gonna have these radical political opinions one way or the other? No, he's not, because there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna say, fuck off, man. You're a Trump guy, or fuck off, you're a Biden guy. Whatever.
But it's only one thing. It's a tweet. So that's what I get.
You wanted him dead.
Yeah, and he should die. So anyone who's listening to that, he's terrible. He's a horrible human being. And I don't really like Joe Biden all that much either, but he's a terrible human being, Trump. And everyone who is, I think you know what you get with me from following me. So let's
take a real quick break here. Go to a couple commercials. I know you got something to take care of too. And then on the other side, we're definitely going to pick up this conversation. Again, I think this is what some people want to know, what happened between us. And then we're going to talk, like I said, a little bit of Bills and Sabres too. So I'll be right back after this quick break. All right, I am back here with Joe from Queens at Buffalo Wins on Twitter. And I understand people, regular listeners, watchers of the show, they're like, come on, fucking get to some Bills and Sabres. So I'm going to do that in a second. But again, when you're not on this show for 8.5 months, and I know a lot of people want to know why, kind of giving them a little bit of insight, kind of pulling back the curtain here a little bit. So before the break, we were talking about the political part of it. I really don't think there's too much more left to really say about that. That was just my stance anyway at the time. And you pretty much told me to go fuck myself.
Well, yeah, a little bit of that. I mean, that I think you saying to me like, "Hey, like." No, what really annoyed me was the you can't be critical of the media thing anymore. And that happened all like within the Andy Isabella take, the I can't have someone who wants Trump dead on my podcast. And then like you can't be critical. Because like I would have probably been like, all right, dude, I won't tweet much about Trump. Which if you compare me tweeting about politics from 2016 to 2020, it is day and night. I rarely
But it's an election year now.
I've still been quiet about it. I'm still
nothing's happening yet.
Well, I'm still quiet about it. I'm still quiet.
You know it's coming, but that's not a bigger issue. You know, I don't really agree. I don't want to say I completely disagree because I'm not calling you a liar by any means, but I don't think I said you can't be critical of the media. I think I might have been like, I think you're being too critical of the media. There's a difference between being.
You said to me, you cannot. I don't want you to be critical of them because they're the hand. They are the hand that whatever. They're the hand that bites my freaking food, what the hell that expression is.
You know what it is, or something like that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, so you can't have me on to be a little bit critical of it. And I thought that was.
You understand? Again, if you could look at it from my point of view, and I understand your point of view, but from mine, let's just. And I'm throwing some random names out here. I'm not saying this is anyone that you've said nasty shit about or anyone that had beef with you. I'm just throwing random sports media names out there. Let's say a Matt Bove or a Tim Graham. And I know some of these guys you like a lot, you know what I mean? So again, this has nothing to do necessarily with you, but like a Tim or a Matt or Perino or any of these guys, if they're coming on my show and they're helping grow the show and they're good conversations that I have, and I feel like, you know, they're helping me continue, like I said, to grow this show. And then I got someone else on this show who's pretty much saying these guys are fucking the worst. They suck.
Okay,
I'm not gonna, if that was me, I wouldn't want to go on somebody's show. If like Cover One, let's use Cover One for an example. I'm cool with Greg and Aaron, a couple of those guys, and then there's a couple of guys that I don't like. And if they were going on the show and saying, Pat Moran, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, this and that, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you, man. I'm not gonna go on your show. Why would I want to go on your show?
A few things. Let's go back. Any criticism I have of them, I don't say they fucking suck. They fucking suck. I give legit reasons as to why I think they need to be better at their jobs. It is not me coming on here and it's like hot mic night and I'm like shooting promos how terrible they are. I will give a bunch of different reasons why I think some of them need to be better at their different junkets. Second, I don't think they care because I think they want to go and talk like they know about their brand. They want to grow it. And they want to have it grown because they want to go to different platforms and talk. They're not going to say like, I'm not going to go on because Joe had the temerity to say that, you know, sorry, it's my cat's food that just came down.
You're good. You're good.
I don't think they're going to go and be like, well, Joe said this about that, you know, that I'm biased towards Stephon Diggs. Like they hear a lot of stuff to begin with. Okay, and I think if they would be shooting, it would be kind of hypocritical in a way because they're critical of athletes, right? And if an athlete doesn't want to talk to them because they're critical of it, and they don't want to talk to you because I'm critical of them, that's kind of hypocritical, right? If I were to say that, that's how I viewed it, and I don't agree. I think some of them would want to come out. And look, and I get along with, I don't say I get along, but I'm fine with probably 60% of them. Maybe like some of them I don't. Like, and I've shared my subtweets about them, and I haven't really talked about them that often. But there are those who I think, you know, that can do better. I think a lot of the Pagulas have a little bit of a crime nest there where no one goes after them as much as they should. I think there's people who are scared about it, and I talk about it. And look, I just say like, what about this? What about that? I don't know, like what else you're supposed to say, but this is like, I like to talk about the media. I have done that since I was young, since I was in my like teens, in the 90s, 2000s. Even when I had my own website, I talked about it. You know,
we clashed a lot on that. That's where I think a lot of our beef comes between is that we have different, I don't want to say different attitudes, different opinions about the job that the majority of the sports media do. And I don't think you're right or I'm right or, you know, necessarily right or wrong. Opinions are opinions at the end of the day. That's what they are. You call me Pattering Pat a lot. Most of it's in fun and jest. And most of the time,
some of it's true a little bit.
Most of it, I take that way, whether it's, whether you're meaning it that way or not.
At that point, you weren't. You were heated at me, dude. Like
I was at a point. I was at a point because it got to a point where it's like I was starting to get annoyed being called that, because at the end of the day, my mindset is this, and this was kind of, you aired just now some of your issues you had with me. My primarily one that I've had with you during this process is you're calling me pandering Pat, and I'm like, no, I'm just, and this is my take on it. I'm just a nice dude. I feel like I'm a nice guy. I'm nice to these people. I like the job that most of them do. I respect what they do. For most of them, they're probably living out some kind of dream, making it a living, probably not as good of a living as they thought they would be making when they got into the business. But anyway, my point is, I just like people generally, and I'm just nice to people. And you call me pandering Pat. Sometimes I take it that way. It's like, no, I'm just a fucking nice dude. And my beef with you turns into, I just think you could get fucking really mean and nasty. Not so much, never on this podcast, and not even our own conversations, but like I said, on Twitter, like on social media, it feels sometimes you just get mean and nasty. That was my feelings at least a year ago at the time or whatever, during our quote unquote breakup. I'm like, this motherfucker's just mean. I'm a nice dude.
I think you were going through a midlife podcast crisis. I think you were overthinking everything, and that's what it was. Because Pat, I had been on this podcast since 2018, and I have talked about the media almost every other time. I have talked about all of them.
There's truth to
like who I like. This was not like, oh my god, I'm this loose cannon's here now that I never knew it was him. This is what I was, and I think you overthought it because you were thinking about, oh man, I'm supposed to have all these people come in the Imperial Pizza and have wings with, and if they don't want Joe, if they don't like Joe, and then what if they don't want to come? And I'm just like, as I told you, I think they would have came.
Fair. That's fair.
I think they would have cared. They would have came. A majority of them follow me, and some of them block me. But like, I don't think they would have. I don't think it would have. I thought it was just like, as I said, there was just a lot of combination of things that were just getting on my nerves, and I think
there was a time. Go ahead. There was a time where X, Y, and Z. We'll use sports media figure X, Y, and Z, where I did feel, and this is where I think part of what you're saying is true, that they don't want, why would they want to come on the show again when Joe, who not on the podcast, but just on Twitter, comes off as being very negative towards the media and the job that they do. The fact that I have you on the show right now and we're talking, that tells me that at least to some extent, I have some belief in that, because otherwise I quite frankly would have never asked you to do the podcast again.
You lost all your guests. You're sick of doing it 5 days a week. You don't want to do any more solo.
And this is another thing too. And I don't really know how you feel about this, but when you use that nickname, I mean, like I said, to me, I'm nice to these people and I just respect them. But it almost feels to me like you're saying, well, you kissed their ass and you're always saying these things, and like, but they don't have respect for me back. Like a lot of these people, they respect me plenty. You know what I mean? I'm friends with some of them. A lot of them like me the same that I like them. And sometimes I feel like you make it sound like I have to kiss people in the media's ass to get them to come on Talking Buffalo, where that's not really true, man. I could DM Mike Harrington right now and say, Mike, come on the podcast next week and he will do it. You know what I mean? I don't got to sit there and pander to him or any of that shit.
All right. Well,
so that's my take at the time. I've always tried to balance the fact that I think you are negative towards the media and stuff like that and what people might think versus the fact that I actually think you're really, really good on the podcast. I've always felt that way before our breakup and everything. I've always liked having you on the podcast because for a lot of the shit that I bitch at you about personally is stuff that I like about having you on the podcast, because a lot of people are very
That's another thing.
People are afraid to be critical. You're not. I respect that about you.
That I want to mention that too. See, I don't like that you have me on the podcast to be your heat seeker to get to talk about negatively about the media, because that's what I think you do.
Because like, you are a heat seeker.
But you won't do it though. When I remember the one time I had the idea of I wanted to rank all the media people. This is like 3-4 years ago. I said we need to do a March Madness freaking bracket of like who are the worst media people, and you wanted to do it, but you wanted me to do the whole thing, and you didn't want to be critical of anyone. And I was like, what the heck? I'm like, I'm not gonna come on there and be like, oh, this person's ugly and probably bangs interns or something like that. Like, it was just going to be like, well, I think this person's good at this, bad at this. And you didn't want to have anything to do with that. And I was like, you can, even when you were listening, when you had, the last time I listened to your podcast, you had Ty Dunn on, and you kept, and it was a great podcast, good job. You did not want to call out the people who were against Ty Dunn. That pissed me off. Like, why couldn't you just say, hey, the air raid guy at Cover One was kind of a dick to freaking Ty, and then a couple other guys were passively aggressively on the media, one saying like film at 11. John Worrell said film at 11 when like negative, like former employees badmouth this person.
I called out John Worrell.
Say their names. Like, oh, hey, you had an issue.
I called out John Worrell.
Okay, you did. All right. Well, I did not hear.
I definitely did.
All right. Well, you didn't want to call out the Cover One guys, because if you can't get the Cover One rub, then you're that's just. I feel like sometimes you're like, I'm gonna have Joe do it. He's gonna get the heat, and I'm just gonna be like, oh, I got nothing to do with it. Man.
You are a heat. Well, you're a good heat seeker, and you're not entirely wrong about me not wanting to be critical on this podcast about the media. I'm not going to sit here and say you're entirely wrong. In the case with Tyler Dunn, there were some people, I didn't say names, but there were some, the people that you use as examples are wrong, because I did call out John Worrell, and not only did I call out the guys from Air Raid, I actually went at it with them on Twitter. I got in a fight with them on Twitter.
Well, you did say like you didn't want to call them out. Maybe I was changing a diaper after that, and you called them out. You did say like I didn't want to name names. I was like, wait, name names.
But I get it. I think we both have pretty valid points. Maybe I was going through a pod life crisis.
You were. It was annoying. I almost wanted to kill you.
Crisis. Well, because at the time too, I've been going daily now since September. This was last spring and summer.
How much better your podcast would have been if you didn't break up with me. Every day I could have came on. It could have been Angry Tuesday Joe or something. And no, you had Tone Pucks on all the time. Well, one of the Marinos.
I did feel bad. I did feel bad, and I do think it's true. And I'm telling you now, again, we don't need to name people, but there's probably going to be some people. I put it this way: this podcast is going to drop on Monday morning on the audio side. I'd be willing to bet that I get a couple DMs from people in the media say, "Oh, you had Joe on the show." You know what I'm saying?
That was the other thing you said, and then after this, we can go
and wrong on me. And wrong on me if I still had the attitude that, I shouldn't have him on the show because you guys don't like him. That's just not gonna happen anymore. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I do think you have good value as a podcaster. I truly do, and I've always thought that. But you and I are kind of like, sometimes people can be friends, and we are friends. I mean, I was invited to your wedding. I went to your baby shower, so we're friends. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes friends just are like oil and vinegar, where they just clash on things. I think that's what you and I are. I like you. I respect you. I like the job you do on the podcast. I think you could be.
All right, you're pandering to me now. Enough. Okay.
No. But we clash about a lot of shit, and that's just the way it is. And I think if we both just say that's just what it is, we're both strong personalities, man.
We clash about the media. That's the one thing we clash about. We don't really clash too much about the Bills. Like, we kind of agree. Like, there's different things that
because I don't kiss the Bills and Sabres ass. You might think I'm a media ass kisser. I'm not with the Bills and Sabres.
No,
I fucking hate the Sabres. But
one thing you did say that annoyed me when we broke up again was when you said to me, a media person said, like, they told me that you're like the worst person ever, and everyone thinks you're a psycho, and there's been worse things that the media has said about you. So basically, you said like Media X, and I have like, I don't know, if you gave me 3 guesses, I could probably figure out who that was, and that pissed me off because I was like, oh, because this guy thinks I'm a psycho, and he can't come to me and go, oh, like my DMs are always open, and I'm pretty, like, when I get in arguments with people, I try to be somewhat respectable. I mean, I got told I was a terrible human being by one media person after they said Sean McDermott was the best coach in sports, and I retweeted going, "This is kind of stupid," and I got called a miserable human. And I was like, "Okay,
I've called you that before."
Yeah, but I know you, and it was not
right. I called. They're not worse. They're not worse. Like beef.
Yeah, but I know you. You can kind of get away with that.
I called you hateful once. I remember that as well.
Yeah, you did subtweet me one day. I think I made fun of the Content Bros, and then you said, like, you subtweeted me, and and by the way, and then we can go to the Bills, since I have like 6 months worth of takes for the Talking Buffalo audience. I did the block unblock to you. I have not followed you on Twitter since August.
I don't follow you either. So
I know because I did the block unblock thing. So neither of us followed each other. So that's I
know you did. I noticed too that you weren't following me anymore. And then in very petty fashion, I did the same thing and I unfollowed.
No, you didn't. Well. See, you're
not immediately. I haven't followed you for a while.
Whatever. I did,
but I still look at some of your tweets. I'm not gonna lie, man. I think we have a better relationship. I think we have a better relationship.
Yeah, the For You tab has you come on all the time, which is annoying. That's why Elon's Twitter sucks. I'm like, I don't want to see Pat anymore. I was done with it, but now I may have to follow you. Maybe I might keep you away. I think it might be better for our friendship and our relationship. I'll check in on some of your tweets, but again, I'm like, Jesus Christ, he just rattled off 5 straight mean tweets towards somebody. I don't need to see that, man. I'll just talk to you on Facebook and fucking have you on the podcast because I know I'm going to get some honest. When was the last time I was mean?
What does block and unblock mean? Explain that because I don't even know what that means. I know what it means to block somebody.
So if you do that, if someone's following you and you following them, so you do the unblock, you block them and then you unblock them because they lose your follow. So when I when I block you, you automatically get blocked.
Why couldn't you just stop following me?
Say again?
Why didn't you just?
I didn't want you to follow me. That's why. I was one of those. I don't want you to follow me.
It forces the other person. It
forces you to unfollow. So I don't. It's like we're going this way, buddy. That's it. Not so you keep following me. It's like no, we're done.
Okay.
Like it's like when you take someone off your Facebook Messenger. Like if you have a Facebook feed and you're like, I don't want to see this person's statuses anymore, and I don't want them to see mine either. That's kind of like what it was.
To sum this portion up, we're still going to have disagreements. We're still going to have some beefs. Hopefully they will continue to be kept private. But what I will not do anymore is say that I'm not going to have you on the podcast because of other people. If I don't have you on the podcast, it's going to be because I don't want you on the podcast because you and I went over the top and said shit that there's no coming back from. Something like that. It ain't going to be because, I don't want to come on the show because Joe's on or Joe, he's an asshole or any of that shit. Everybody has their opinions. Let's just leave it at that. But
last thing, and then we can talk about the Bills, whatever you want to talk about. If anyone has an issue with me, my DMs are open. You can go and DM me. I don't talk a lot of shit. I keep things to myself. And
I've always felt you're a different guy. I always feel you're a different guy in person and even on this show, visually and talking with your voice as opposed to tweets, which to be fair, I think tweets with sometimes that don't have context and only 280 characters can be maybe a little bit misleading. I feel like you come off a lot meaner on Twitter than you do in person.
Well, I think everyone comes off meaner in the typing.
Is that fair? Is that fair? Yeah. Is that a fair assessment?
No. I think I'm awesome everywhere. I'm awesome here. I'm awesome on the X or Twitter, whatever the fuck they call it these days. I'm awesome. Period. Yeah. But no, I could see that maybe. Sure. All right. What are we going to talk about now? We got to go to break.
I kind of felt a little bit therapeutic there because
we had to get it out. I'm sorry to everyone, and I wanted to tell you how I felt because
I'll tell you too.
I did tell people I did trash you to people that not like everyone, but like a couple like this bleep bleep bleep. I was so I wanted to get it out to at least tell you so I at least stay face. Like it's like CM Punk coming back to WWE. Like he had to tell everyone I had to be real to myself and be like,
I appreciate the honesty. And I'm sure I've told a couple people that don't worry, I ain't never going to have Joe on the podcast again. I know I've said that to a couple people at some point along the way. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to put at the very beginning of the show before I release it, a little disclaimer that the first 40 some minutes is just Joe and I talking about our beef and why he hasn't been on the show. You want to hear Bills Sabres talk? Fast forward to this part of the show because we'll dive into this.
Everyone's going to want to hear this. The real content.
Let's start with the Bills. I know it's your favorite time of the year. It's NFL Scouting Combine Week. I know how much you look forward to that.
Can't wait to see those steak dinners coming across my Twitter feed from the Bills beat.
This is some of your best content of the year, actually. Written. Yes. I mean, tweet wise, me Facebooking. Because you hate the combine so much.
I wouldn't say I hate. No, the combine's not in my. It's honestly training camp and OTAs. Those are like the things that I hate the most. The combine, it's annoying only because it's like you're going to talk to the players that are there, they're just kind of, it's like there's too many people there. They're not really going to give you that much substance. And you're going to talk to them a week and a half, 2 weeks later, in some cases with the coaches. Like McDermott's going to talk in 3 weeks after the combine at like one of the regular random OTAs or free agency opening. Like he's going to talk again. Like what's happened between them. But I'm gonna put the claws down a little bit on that. Like I'm not gonna like go to town on that. But like, hey, yes, combine.
I actually think that's some of your best stuff, though, man. I bitch about you being mean to the media and shit like that, but actually some of your funniest shit.
The combine should be used, and this is just my hot take, for people to network with other sources, because all the GMs are there, the head coaches are there,
agents.
Ghost agents. That's what you should be doing. Not like, who gives a fuck what Caleb Williams is gonna fucking say in front of a podium about their favorite chicken wings or favorite ranch or whatever the fuck. Like, that's why you should go to those things. That's so you can cultivate the sources, break some news for God's sakes, and that's it. You know, that's what it should be about. I know there are people like you and all the football bros who are like, oh, I can't wait to hear these prospects talk about their college careers, which what they're doing. They don't exist elsewhere. They weren't asked about it 2 weeks ago, but I digress. I'm a curmudgeon when it comes to that. I can only, at this point in my football like world, I have taken, we're going to talk about the Bills, but I have taken a break from the Bills on social media until free agency starts. I don't care what's happening right now. I don't want to get yelled. I don't want to, I made that point when Brady and Greg Babbage came back to the Bills. I was like, oh, cool. I guess, you know, Brady's okay. I kind of wish they would have flirted with more people, but I had to have an influx of people on Twitter being like, but I was told people didn't want to work for Sean McDermott. And I'm like, all right, yes. Brady didn't want to coach Josh Allen. Like, hello. Like, of course he did. It was just, at that point, I was like, I need to not be on this as much, because it's 2 weeks after the season ended and I'm already annoyed. Like, so like that sort of stuff is kind of, I take a break. I'm trying to take a break a little bit on the social media about the Bills until it really matters, which is when free agency starts or something happens, like they cut Diggs or something, you know, crazy. Which
I think you would be surprised to know that I actually am not big on the scouting combine week from a content perspective. I don't think there's a lot of value to it. I know there are some players who might run fast and their stock goes up, or, you know, but is their stock really going to go down because they drop a couple passes in a drill? You know, I know the interviewing process during the combine is certainly going to matter, but these guys all end up private workouts and private interviews with the team during the draft process anyway. And I don't care that much about it, because this is the time of year where I'm really locked in on who's staying and who's going, for not just the Bills, but for teams. You know, who are the Bills going to resign? Who's going to get cut? What deals are they going to restructure? And then March 11th, which is just a couple of weeks away, is the start of free agency. So I really don't care about the draft yet. I mean, I've been watching clips and studying up on some players to know what I'm talking about, you know, come draft season, which will be coming soon. But right now, I don't care about the draft. I don't care about the draft until maybe 7 days after free agency starts, because you didn't sign this guy at this position. So now you better go draft. Like right now, the Bills, everyone says the Bills should draft a wide receiver. But what if the Bills, let's just say for fun, they trade for Justin Jefferson? Are the Bills drafted a wide receiver? First of all, they wouldn't have a first round pick. You know what I'm saying? But if they go make a big move and they sign some Mike Evans in free agency, maybe you're not, you know, it changes. So to say what the Bills' needs are right now before free agency starts, before you know who they're keeping, to me, that's just the draft process is just a waste right now. I'm all in right now on the team.
There are people like who do have like they're into the draft 24/7. That's the biggest change. There's so many different changes of coverage from when we were kids. And there are draft people who just live for the draft. And there are people who just care more about the draft because you can actually watch it. So they might care more about the free, like that than the free agency, even though they're not at the same spot. Like free agency comes first. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I'm barely like I used to be more into the draft like a week or two before, but but there are people who care about it year round.
For sure. But I don't think the team needs change. When's if the Bills re-sign DaQuan Jones and they go add a good defensive tackle somehow in free agency? Defensive tackle suddenly is not a priority anymore. Right now, today, you can make an argument they're going to use their first round pick on a D tackle. You know what I'm saying?
I hope not. Okay, so let me State of the Union about the Bills for me, okay?
Go ahead.
This is the off season. I'm not a Sean McDermott fan. I kind of thought they should have maybe cut ties. I feel like he hit his ceiling. He came on, the Ty Dunn expose did not do him any favors. Yes, he went on a little bit of a run. They beat some really bad teams barely, like the Chargers and Pats. I'm not really moved by him. If you want me to be moved where I change my mind on him, it's the philosophy of how they build their teams. Okay? They still have enough defensive guys there. You do not need an overload at defensive line. You have Ed Oliver, you have Rousseau, Von Miller's coming back. I know maybe he comes back better because it's the ACL trope of like you need another year, blah blah blah. You have 3 guys there. You don't need to go high first, second rounders for another defensive tackle. You don't have to spend a ton of money on another guy. You have 3 guys. That's your core. Okay, find role guys. Find like Ford, the guys like they had last year, even though some of them weren't very good. Like those are what you want. Linebacker, you're set. You got Bernard, you got Milano, you're fine. Secondary, it's a little bit of it's not great, but you still have your core in Douglas.
You're set at corner.
Yeah, you're set. You still have Poyer. You don't have to just invest constantly in your defense, and they have done that every fucking year since I've been doing this podcast with you, and I've been yelling about it for the last 3-4 years. Get more wide receivers, get more help, because in this day and age, defense, like maybe once in a blue moon on a game day, you can say, "Oh, the defense won you that game," but for the most part, long term, it's about offense. And I don't want to hear about the Chiefs. Oh, the Chiefs won because their defense was great. Yeah, their defense is really good. But if you watch that Super Bowl, that was a sloppy Super Bowl where I felt like they should have been a higher scoring game. Like the teams are both sloppy. It was their own miscues, had turnovers deep in the own zone. It could have been a high scoring game. You still had an NFC Championship game where both teams scored over 30. You still had a team that almost beat the Chiefs that had like 4 all pros on your offense, skilled guys. The year before you had Smith, you had Brown on the outside with the Eagles. Like they had a loaded core of like weapons there. That's what gets you there. McDermott needs to go out there and go, you know what? Enough. He's supposed to be a defensive guru. You have the guys I just named to you. You don't need to just keep overdoing it. And they've done it. Like how many first round picks, how many second round picks dedicated to defensive line, how many contracts, like so many of them. And what happened? What happened this year? The final game of the year, they lost the same way they lost the year before. And the year before, their defense let them down. Even with these all-pro guys, these awesome guys there, not all-pro, but like all these guys, value picks, high draft picks, they lost. And you know why they lost offensively in the last 2 games against the Bengals and the Chiefs? Their wide receivers failed them. Last year, they had the zombie Cole Beasley and the zombie John Brown. This year, Sherfield misses 2 freaking catches. And why? Because he's not very good, unfortunately. This is the year that they go, you know what? Let's go in on offense. I want them to go and draft a guy in the first round, and I want them to draft a guy in the second round because you need an heir apparent for Stephon Diggs, who could be gone after next year, and you also want a replacement for the guy who's going to replace Stephon Diggs. You're supposed to – this is a scoring league. You have Josh Allen here. McDermott talks about how, I follow the Andrew Reid coaching like philosophy of throw first. That's great, man. But you didn't throw first in the game against the Chiefs. He had 189 yards passing. You didn't do that until you had to do it at the end of the game, and like show me that you really are a passing offense. Because your wide receivers, everyone knows the stats. They haven't drafted a wide receiver within the first 4 rounds since Gabe Davis. They haven't drafted a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds at all since Brandon Beane has been here. That's ridiculous. And everyone knows this. So I don't know why everyone is trying to like either you're trying to do it because you really like McDermott, and there's like apologists who are like, oh, I'm going to do what Sean McDermott's going to probably want to do, and that's get defense. Fuck that. That's not going to work. You've tried that way. It has failed you. The defense in 2021 that led 42 points against the Chiefs, that was supposed to be a good defense. That, on paper, they were. You had Edmonds, you had Milano, everyone was there, and they got torched. And like they got torched this year again. Like, why are you doing the same thing again? Like, fuck that. Go and get offensive weapons. Enough of this bullshit with the defense. You have your guys there. Again, you have guys there. Get some role guys. Get a 3rd, 4th rounder, whatever. Get some fucking weapons. Okay, because I have this horrible feeling that even though I'm saying all this, they're going to ignore it because they're dumb and they don't listen to smart people like me. I feel they're going to change their philosophy. They are going to be more of a running team. I think that's what you saw when Brady took over for Dorsey. I think you saw them control the ball more. I think that Cook all of a sudden got great. Like, okay, cool, good for Cook. And I think they did that because Sean McDermott was really worried about his defense, and he wants to keep the defense off the field. And I think this year they're going to sit there and go, man, let's kind of shorten these games. Let's run a little bit more. Be more balanced. And look, this is a hot take. I don't care what anyone says. I thought the biggest disappointment on the offense was Josh Allen, and I'm going to tell you why. I have giant, high, godly, expectations for him. Excuse me. And if you compare what he did offensively to like what he was in 2020, that's when he came out, and we were all like, "Holy shit, this guy is amazing!" 300-yard games. He had, counting the playoffs that year, and one less game or a half because he left the Miami game in the finale. He had 9 300-yard games, counting the playoffs. Do you know how many he had this year with the extra 17th game? 5. Why? No. Because in my opinion, it's not his fault. It's everyone. I think it's kind of everyone else's fault in a little bit. It's how the offense was geared towards him, how they became more of a ball control offense. It's because Gabe Davis was terrible this year. He was not good this year. I don't care what his stats say about him or his agent says about him. You had 9 games with 2 catches or fewer. That's pathetic. Okay, and I don't want to hear, like, I don't care if the Bills had $100 million on the cap. I would not re-sign him. He is the Ryan Fitzpatrick of your wide receiving core, where, hey, you can do better. Okay, you can do better, and that's where it's at. And those are the numbers. And like, yeah, his EPA was great. I mean, his EPA was great because why? Because a lot of quarterbacks freaking went down with injuries. That could have helped. And also, he has a lot of touchdowns. Like, that's the thing. He's a touchdown fucking machine. But his passing yards went down. You cannot deny that. They went down. And I think, and it's not his fault. I don't want anyone to send your hate tweets to Pat, but like his numbers went down passing yards wise because they weren't throwing it as much. They were like, we're going to be ball control now. And I don't think and you put 2 and 2 together, like you put the Ty Dunn article, which was the issues with Dable, and Dable's not a saint. Everyone knows he's had issues with the Giants, but it seemed to be he wanted him to run the football more. And I think that's what ended up happening. I mean, look at the playoff game. They ran the ball all the fucking time in that game. They needed to leave that a lot earlier in the second half, and they didn't. And I think that's what they're going to do next year. I feel in my bones that they're going to really go, that the offense that we love, that I loved in 2020, 2021, when they were throwing it all over the fucking field, it's gone. And I think it's not going to be terrible. It's not going to be like 20th or something like that. It will be in that 8 to 14 range. Complimentary football, like the McDermott likes to fucking talk about.
Philosophically, I really like what you said. I love the wide receiver point, and it's not talked about enough how, the defense has let the Bills down in the playoffs the last couple of years, but so have the wide receivers, including Stephon Diggs. And Sherfield this year, like you said, John Brown and Cole Beasley were washed up.
What happened to Hardy? Hardy was supposed to be good, and right.
He didn't do anything.
That. He had a punt return for a touchdown. Thank God for that, but that was it.
I agree with you. I also agree with you that I think direction this team's headed in, much to your chagrin, I think, is they're looking to be a more balanced football team. That's what Sean McDermott wants. They're going to run the football more, maybe even more than they did near the end of last year.
I think so too.
Go ahead. I don't agree with you about one thing though. When we talked about Tyler Dunn's article and, the effect it might have had on Sean and his team, I think that was actually a rallying point. I think a journalistic article about somebody from an independent website actually kind of changed that football team. I disagree with you because they did beat a couple good teams. They beat Dallas. They beat Kansas City after the article dropped from Tyler. They beat Miami on the road in week 18.
All right, I'll give you that, but they did almost lose to those two other They lost to a guy named Stick. But the Cowboys, yeah, I don't know about the Cowboys. They kind of feel like they've always been paper champions. Like they're always like, oh yeah, we have this, and they get obliterated by Green Bay.
And they did run the football a lot more. And I do think that's the direction that they're headed. Can I read you something?
Sure.
This is from a fan. Now, I do a Fan Friday episode here. I know you never watch or listen to the show, so
Nope.
you're probably learning this too. But anyway, on Fridays, I have some comments and questions that I pull from fans who watch or listen to the show, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. You brought up Josh Allen. Somebody, and you had a hot take on him. I want to read something from a guy named @VidsMads that kind of takes it a little bit further about Josh Allen. And this is based because Anthony Marino and I said on the show a week or two ago, if I had Josh Allen, I'm not trading him for anybody in the NFL. Just like if I had Pat Mahomes, I'm not trading him for anybody in the NFL. This guy does not agree. He says, Josh Allen, absolutely the most physically gifted athlete to ever play quarterback. However, most important muscle for that position is between the ears, and that's where Josh is lacking. Then talking about comparing, I'm going to get to the clip, those, because this is too long to read the whole entire thing. I'll say that for Friday. But he says, you never see the Chiefs lose a game because of Mahomes. Allen, on the other hand, will have 3 to 5 games a season where he's the worst player on the field for either team. Allen has a top 5 defense in Buffalo every year he's been a pro. He's also had all-pro wide receivers and Diggs. Beasley, a Pro Bowler tight end once, and Dawson Knox, and a pretty good supporting cast members in Brown and Sanders. And let's not forget the most prolific playoff performers in history, Gabe Davis. He said that tongue in cheek. Anyway, he talks about this year they had a top defense. Shakir Davis, Kincaid, but the Bills were 0-7 in games that the opponent scored more than 22 points. Allen was the worst player on the field in the Jets opener, the Broncos game, the Giants game, and the Bengals game. Again, you don't see those games out of Mahomes. Despite having far less talent around him, I'm convinced that if Mahomes were on the Bills win that Houston wildcard game. They win that AFC championship game. I disagree with that. He says they would win that Bengals game, and they win a divisional round game in 2023. I don't care what anyone says. You give Mahomes 3 drives at the end of a game to overcome a 3-point deficit. He gets the job done every time. He's proven it time and time again. Basically, he's saying that Mahomes is a lot better here than Josh Allen, and that Josh Allen has those handful of games each season where he is arguably the worst player on the field. What do you think about that?
That's a little tough. I think what makes Josh Allen is how aggressive he is. He is Brett Favre, but bigger, like in terms of running. And Brett Favre's whole thing was he went for it. He gunned it. He threw a lot of picks. I think he's the all-time leader in interceptions.
Yep.
And that's what you have to do with Josh Allen. In some of those cases, those games, yeah, he played like crap in the Jets game. Like that was a bad game. I don't know about the Broncos one. That game, from what I remember, that was McDermott calling all out blitz when he shouldn't have, and he blew that game. Look at the 12 men on the field. Like,
yeah, Josh had that moment. So, like, the first play of the game was an ugly,
yeah, it was an ugly pick. I mean, there's just moments where, like, yeah, he messes up. Mahomes is a little bit more conservative in terms of not making as many mistakes, but he needs to. Mahomes and him are going to be interchangeable forever. Like they're just going to be against each other. It's every Jordan versus freaking Dominique Wilkins, we'll just say, whoever, of going against like guys who are like pure scorers, like those 2 guys I just mentioned. And right now, Mahomes is better than him. It just is like the hardware, the championships, the stats too. I mean, passing yards. And also I think the big thing. I don't know if you switched them, like what would happen. I think the biggest thing that the Chiefs have that we don't have is they have Andy Reid, and he's an offensive guru. We don't have an offensive guru on this staff as of now. Does Brady become a guru? I don't know. Maybe like a lot there. That seems like people like him. I feel like maybe they like him because he's young and he came from like, LSU and they had all those guys there, but like, who the hell knows? I don't know what he's going to do with him. I think that's the biggest thing why the Chiefs are where they're at, because they have Andy Reid.
I think if your ambition to see the Bills draft a wide receiver in the first round, and maybe I don't think it'll happen in the first and second, but maybe the first and the third or the first and the fourth, I think for that to happen realistically, then you need to root for the Bills to re-sign some of these free agents on the defensive side of the football. Like bring back AJ Epinesa, bring back Daquan Jones. You get both those guys back in the mix along with Vaughn Rizzo and Ed Oliver. You got the foundation of your defensive line. And then maybe they're not looking to take a guy 28 overall, because I think defensive end is especially very, very much in play in the first round. So I feel like you want free agency to really be focused on the defensive side of the ball. Unless, of course, you're going to go out and swing for the fences and go get yourself a Mike Evans or somebody along those lines. I mean, there's a handful of really good receivers.
Like I said, I've been on all offensive doom for the last 2-3 years. I'm a stubborn person, as you know.
Am I wrong? Do you take your money, Joe? If you're Brandon Beane and you say, well, fuck that, I'm going to take, even forget taking a rookie in the first round. I'm going to go spend big, try to get Calvin Ridley, who's going to be a free agent, or Michael Pittman Jr. from Indy, who might be hit the market. One of those guys, you're going to pay an exuberant potential amount of money for someone like that. But if you're going to spend your money in your Brandon Beane, you're willing to do that at that position?
I would rather them do it in the draft, because this is my rule of thumb, and this isn't perfect. I feel defensive linemen take 2-3 years to develop, and I think they need help right away. Where if you get a defensive lineman in the draft, he's not going to have dividends, I think, for 2-3 years. A wide receiver, you can get that guy. He can be an impact guy right away. So I would rather them, if I had to pick, like, what do you want to do? Do you want the offense? Do you want the pretty cute weapon on the first round for wide receiver, or in free agency? I'm going wide receiver free and drafting, and then go sign some guys defensively if you need those guys, because I feel you have a better shot of them impacting you right away. I've watched enough of the Bills, like, again, of football, where it does take a while. Like, Ed Oliver didn't become a terror until like his third year, basically. AJ Epinesa was shitty the last 3 years, and he was pretty good this year. There are a lot of those guys. Jerry Hughes, even, like, there's a numerous guys who have had that sort of thing where it takes a couple of years to get there as a defensive lineman. So that's what I would do. Like, hey, sign a couple of them in free agency, and then you do it in the draft. Like, if I would, like I said, I would go 1 and 2, because I think I think you need those. You need a replacement for Diggs when Diggs eventually leaves, and you need the replacement for him, and you just go for it. Like, the Chiefs had a great offense, and the Chiefs have had a good offense, and they still draft wide receivers. The Packers had a bunch of wide receivers they drafted. Like, just do that, man. Like, don't.
I agree. I'm not. You're not getting an argument out of me with this. A 5-year rookie contract is important too. I looked at the franchise tag numbers for this season. Wide receiver, $21 million. Receivers are getting paid. So to get an opportunity to have a rookie that for at least 3 years minimum, you're going to get really cheap before you have to start getting into potential extension, category territory if that player pans out. Look, they need one more really good pass catcher for sure. I still like Stephon Diggs. I don't think he's going to be the player he was anymore in 2020, but he's still a good player. Maybe he's not elite anymore.
We have to see what's up with him. Like, I cannot for the life of me figure out how he went from being super hot, and then maybe I have an idea. Then they fire their coordinator, and then he just goes downhill. Like, why? You tell me he just hit a ball.
They spread it out when Kincaid and Shakir emerged. So
they also had him running those stupid screen passes too a lot. I thought that was kind of lame. I wonder, what? I wonder what's going to happen next year, real quick. I would not be shocked if they go back to 12 personnel next year if Dawson Knox is back. I can't. What are you going to do? You're going to have an $8 million player sitting on the fucking bench?
Man, I hear you, because he can't.
Like, how are you going to do that? You can't.
He's untradeable, and they can't cut him. So Dawson Knox is a Buffalo Bill.
So I feel like they might bullshit it and go, hey, we have Brady. He's going to implement his. I know all the buzzwords. They're going to implement a new offense. It's going to be better play calling with the 2 tight ends. Because, like, what are you going to do? You're going to switch him and Kincaid off? Like, Kincaid's obviously a great. I didn't think he was going to be great out of the batch, and he was pretty good. He was damn good. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to take him off the field, and so you can have Dawson Knox in there in the 3 wide receiver set? And here's the thing, Pat, if you're going to become a running team, is it better to run out of 2 tight ends than it is out of 3 wide receivers?
I get it. I agree with you. I think they're going to run more.
I want to go back to one take. Like, you better not promote this take, because I know you. I shouldn't say Josh Allen was the most disappointed. That's a little bit harsh. Like, Gabe Davis was probably more disappointed in him. I was more like going back, because I said like he was the most disappointed. I don't want people coming. I don't have the skin to have some assholes coming in. You're like, how could you say Josh Allen was disappointing? I thought just like, look, it's weird in a way. Like, Josh Allen was the MVP of the team, but I also I have this image of what he looked like from 3-4 years ago. And he was
Sure.
better. He was better
When
then.
he left the Kansas City field, when he left Arrowhead in 2021 with the lead and 13 seconds left, you're like, this is going to be the best player in the NFL and he's going to smash records. I get it. I think part of it is philosophical and then wanting to run the ball.
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's not his fault.
I think
I think
he deserves criticism though. He's mistake prone. There were a lot of interceptions this season that hurt them.
Yeah.
He overcame a lot of them. All in all, he was still a top 5 player in the NFL. Easily a top 5 player in the NFL this season, despite his shortcomings in running the ball more when he started using his legs a lot more in the second half of the season. But I want to put a wrap on the wide receiver thing because I'll say this. I look philosophically, I said, I agree with you, but I also don't see it. The big resources being spent at wide receiver because they're going to run the ball more. Josh runs the ball. Kincaid looked amazing. They still have Dawson Knox. Khalil Shakir definitely emerged. And Stephon Diggs is still a good receiver. He sucked against the Chiefs. He dropped that ball and he did not play well against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Some of the reason for the number dip, though, he was open deep a handful of times in the second half of the season, and Josh just overthrew him. Those passes connect. You can add another 250, 300 yards receiving for Stephon, and we might not be talking about him that way. I do think wide receiver in the first round, though, is very likely. They need that extra guy. You can't have a season come down to a guy like Trent Sherfield again. That can't happen. It just can't happen. And it did. It did this year.
They have to address it. Like I said, I will be happy if they do it in the first round, or if, like you said, like they somehow got Mike Evans or Ridley, whoever, fine. But they need help there bad. I mean, they have no choice. You can't roll in with like Gabe Davis and Shakir.
Justice Shorter's second year, yada yada. No,
Shorter. Like, get the hell out of here. Like we're gonna it's gonna be terrible. Let me ask you this, and we can do one more thing about Diggs. Do you think they're gonna ask him to take a pay cut? I know, like, he has all the cards in terms of renegotiating, but I can't get a grasp on what's going on with Diggs and the Bills. Like, there's a part of me that thinks there's a conspiracy on my head where I feel like the Bills want him to take a pay cut, and that I think they've been leaking stuff to other guys in the media, and they've been really hard on him. And whether you want to agree with that or not, they have been. And I wonder if they're like they're putting the pressure on him, because everything he says just gets completely like blown up. Like, I saw, like, when he had that 2-minute thing on Radio Row where he just talked about, like, in like 90% of it, he was like, I want to be a Bill. I want to be a Bill. And then, like, I love Josh. And then like there's those who can't stand him who are like, oh, there's the part where he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And like, oh, he wants to leave. And it's just like, whatever part of the aisle you're on, like, I think there's people who just really want him out of here, whether it's, a few fans maybe, but some media guys. And then there's guys who just are in the clouds. I'm probably one of those in the clouds. I want to think like, oh, this is going to work out. It's fine. It's bullshit. Like, where are you with all of it with him? Like, do you think anything's going to happen this offseason? Like, I do think they're going to go to him and just ask. And because they can leak and just be like, again, conspiracy. They can leak he's not a good teammate. Like, he should take a pay cut because he's not worth $31 million for his cap number right now. And they can just say that, and they could frame it like, oh, we want him to do that so we can add more guys to the roster and shit like that.
I think, I have no idea if they're going to ask him to take a pay cut, so I would be guessing, obviously. I would say maybe they're going to ask him. I am confident that he's not going to take a pay cut. And I think, especially now that it came out last week that the salary cap's increasing by like $13 million per team or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of money. I think maybe they would have kicked the can down the road and restructured him this offseason. But I don't think the Bills want to do that, because doing that would help the Bills in 2024, but it would make it another year, maybe even 2 years, where it'd be really, really hard to get out of that contract because of the dead cap money, where they're just going to eat the cap this year. Not eat, but they're going to leave it as it is this year. And this isn't an original idea of mine. I can't lie about it. Joe Biscaglia wrote about this in The Athletic. He thinks this is what they're going to do, and I agree with Joe. So I'm giving Joe the credit here, but Joe's mindset is they're just going to let him play out this year at what his salary is, and then next season, if they want to be able to get out from his contract, whether it's a trade, whether it's to cut him or make him take a pay cut next year or cut him if he won't, then they'll be in better cap shape next year. The salary cap situation will be better. The dead cap money will be less because they will have played this season, as opposed to if they restructure and convert money into a signing bonus now you're kicking more money down the road. So I think they're going to let his.
But there are other guys that could leave, like Mitch Morris could leave after next year. Poyer, like that's why
sure.
I think I don't know what the 17, 18 million between those two. Like you get guys who are going to leave, but I don't know. Look, my expectation is this: like, show me, like, I want them to go back to being a passing team like they were in 2020, 2021.
I don't think
I don't like this balanced bullshit. I don't. And I thought, the disappointing thing about this season was that the AFC was wide open. Teams, quarterbacks were dead, and this is like your year to do that. And I think they can't rest on their laurels, oh, hey, we're gonna be fine, and like we're just gonna be safe, and we're gonna go out and get another defensive lineman, and then we're gonna get like an old veteran wide receiver, and like just go all in on defensive linemen and like defensive tackle, another edge rusher, and all those boring shit that's not going to win you.
I don't think you're going to see it come to fruition, though, for two reasons. Number one, you're talking about him. It's Sean McDermott. This is what he wants. He wants a balanced team that can run the football and play good defense. That's what the head coach's makeup is, for better or for worse. And then the other thing, which does not help the Bills, is the Kansas City Chiefs did just win a Super Bowl, and they won it in a year where their offense was incredibly mid all season long. In fact, with the exception of the Bills' divisional round playoff game, the offense didn't play well. The offense didn't play well in in Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. It was their defense who won it for them. The offense was pretty sloppy for the majority of the Super Bowl. Their defense kind of kept them in the game. So if Sean McDermott's looking at that and saying, this is what we need. We need a really good defense. And, they're good at their goal is going to be this offseason. I think they know we have to be better than a season coming down to Trent Sherfield making plays. I'm not saying they're not going to address wide receiver. They are. I just don't know that it's going to be a first round pick or a $15 million a year receiver. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing is this. I know it's very easy to look at one season and go, this is how you build a football team. I've done that before, but I'm telling you, just because the Chiefs struggled this year offensively, they were awesome last year and they won the Super Bowl. Things can change. And I think teams are going to look more into improving offenses because that's how you win in this league. And I think there's going to be bigger offenses that are going to come next year. And you have to set yourself up for that. We have seen the Bills with their great defense, and it has not worked. It has failed, unfortunately. They have every year. We're like, yeah, they have a good game against Tua, and then they fucking suck against an elite offense, and then that's how it always is. Yeah. So I don't know. I know what they're gonna do as well, Pat. Like I feel they're gonna get a modest wide receiver somewhere, and then they're gonna go put more of their assets into the defensive line because there are holes there. But as I've said before, you have core guys there. Get some role guys in the defense. Like treat your defensive line how you've treated your wide receiving core the last 3-4 years. We have 2 or 3 good guys, like guys you pay, and then the role guys. That's what you have in the defensive line. Like you don't need like you're burning Josh Allen's years by doing this.
Defensive end, yeah, you're right. And look, I think a big reason why defensive end is in play at 28 is because this undoubtedly will be Von Miller's last season in Buffalo, short of him having 15 sacks this year. And maybe that wouldn't even be enough. So I could see it happening. But again, let's see what happens with their own guys first and free agency. And then I think we'll have a little bit of an idea. Again, if they re-sign AJ Epinesa, if they re-sign DaQuan Jones, I will buy more stock into the Bills saying, we're going to go get 2 wide receivers within the first 2 nights of the draft. I hope that happens. Let me bring up one more point. There's one more thing I want to talk about here. I kind of loop it around a little bit. The Buffalo Sabres. All right, so we're taping this really late now into Sunday night. The Buffalo Sabres beat Carolina in overtime 2-1. It was their 3rd straight game that they've won. First time this entire season the Sabres have won 3 in a row. I got to tell you, I've been really hard on this team. I literally dedicated an entire episode that was called "The Buffalo Sabres Are the Worst Organization in Pro Sports." Completely just lambasted the Sabres in their organization. I still feel mostly the same way, but it's good to see them get 3 in a row. And the crowd at the arena tonight was really, really good. It was loud as hell, the loudest I've heard it watching it on TV in a long time. So good vibes there all around. But you brought up a point. I said we did no show prep, but you did send me one message and you said, I would like to talk tonight about the droughts. So kind of bring that up because that's the other thing before we get out of here. I make sure that we discuss.
Sure. I was just wondering, like, what you thought was worse, the Bills drought or the Sabres drought. 17 years was what, 13 with the Sabres. And this is me personally. Okay. I have to go with the Sabres because I watched the third period in overtime. Things have changed my hockey viewing because of my son. Usually he goes to bed at fucking 7:30. So I'm missing the first period because we're putting him in the bed. Then it's me and my wife watching TV. Like, she does not want to watch the Sabres. We have to have our, let's watch the fucking Bachelor or Love is fucking Dumb Blind or whatever. So I don't have a chance to watch it as much, but I don't really care that I'm missing like the Sabres games for the most part. And and I feel like the drought has kind of killed a lot of my passion for the Sabres. And like, I'll follow it. Like, I'll follow it on Twitter, or if I have, like, tonight, I had a chance because the game was at 5:30 and my wife was out, so I could watch it. And it was fun. It was a fun third period. They were fast. It was the crowd was electric, as you said, and everyone seemed to comment like, where was this fucking effort, throughout the whole year. And I think for me, with the Bills drought, there always felt like there was something to cling your hopes to with the Bills before every season, besides like maybe 2 seasons where you knew this was a full-fledged rebuild. I feel like for the Sabres, there's been so many rebuilds and like, oh, they're going to suck this year. And then next year they're going to maybe be better. There just hasn't been as much of a hype parade. And I'll always go back to like the press conference that when they fired Botterill, when the Pagulas came out and they basically were like, yeah, we're slimming down operations, and they fired a bunch of people. And like at that moment, I was just like, oh my God, they're just going to treat this kind of like a AAA team where they're just going to have like a horrible budget. And they've gotten better. Like they've signed their own guys, but at the same time, they like this entire season, it feels like Granato should have been fired 10 different times, from everyone wanting him out. And I feel like they're not doing that because the owner doesn't want to pay him because they just extended him. And I think he's sick of firing people, etc.
His extension didn't even kick in yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like the extension, and I feel like for me personally, I just stopped really caring as much. And I think a lot of people have, because you can see it, like there's not that many people showing up at the arena. Like they had that buzz at the start of the season, and then it became here we go again. And I've wanted to make, my plans around to watch them or try to watch them like the third period. But every time I turn on the game, they're fucking losing by 3 goals. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, why am I wasting my time? Why am I having a heart attack? I'm going to go watch wrestling or something stupider. It's just, and I think it's worse because there's just been more rebuilds. It feels like there's too many games to begin with. You have a league. The NFL is like the big time. It's the most popular fucking league in the country. The NHL is not. I mean, you and I have talked about we'd switch a freaking NBA team for a hockey team, like, any day of the week.
I still would in a second.
I would too. And that's, again, me. That's me. I get there are people who love hockey and they live and breathe it. But I feel like the Bills were like, at least you have and then you had all the other things. Like you have you can go and get shit faced at the game, and there's a communal element of it where like, it's Sunday in Buffalo, where I don't know when there is a fucking game day for the Sabres. I have to look at my phone and go, are they playing tonight? Like, you don't feel that, even if you don't live there. Like, I would feel that with the Bills. Like, they're playing on Sunday. So it's just been, I think it's been worse. And especially since half the league makes the playoffs to begin with. And, I haven't really been watching as much. And it kind of pains me because, look, I was I'm a Sabres fan, obviously. I used to be able to talk about the Sabres a lot. Like, I could, if Talking Buffalo existed 10 years ago, I would be on this podcast talking to you about the Sabres and what did they have to do, the deadline, blah, 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 what they're missing, fuck Darcy Regier, shit like that. And now I don't even have that, like it's more apathetic in terms of, yeah, they should probably fire someone. But like, I feel like it's worse for me because losing. I'm waiting for them to turn it around. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like they got a 3-game winning streak. Maybe I'll tune in the next time they play and go, okay, let's see where this goes. But I made a pact to myself that unless I know they're good, I'm not watching. Really, like I'll follow. I'll listen to some podcasts, catch up. But it's not fun to me to root for a mediocre team. And like the stories you've read about like the Harrington's piece on like them being so angry at Granato at the fans for chanting "Fire Donnie" or whatever, and they didn't want to salute the fans. Like they're very. I often said like the biggest difference between like Bills players of the drought, like a lot of them had personalities. They were fun, like Stevie Johnson, Fred Jackson, Marshawn Lynch. You know, there's so many guys you can pick from who were like, I want to get that guy's jersey. I can't really even recall. Even Jack Eichel, I thought was a prick. Like, I thought he was great and all, but like, I didn't really, maybe I'm old because, you know, I was in my 30s, but there wasn't any sort of, oh man, this guy is colorful and fun, cool personality. There's none of that with the Sabres. And I mean, like, who's a colorful personality? They still have Rob fucking Ray on the bench, and he's like the last colorful guy they had. And I'm not even a Rob Ray fan, but it's just, they don't have that sort of, oh man, this guy, like you get off on like them, like their goal songs. Like, oh yeah, that shows in their personality. Like, great. It's kind of like boring. Like I'm watching New Japan Wrestling. I'm like, yeah, they're great in the ring, but they're boring on the mic and they don't do shit. So why the hell should I care?
Yeah.
Making it about wrestling. So that's my hot take on that situation.
That's and I think it's pretty much the same for me. So the answer is, well, they're both were frustrating. Sabres won ongoing, of course, but it's more for the Sabres for me for a lot of the reasons that you said. On the Bills side, even when they sucked through all those years, there always was hope. And even when they sucked, it was also still fun. And maybe it's just because I like football more than I like hockey.
And that's the same with me. So for anyone that's listening, hey, that's a big thing. Like,
yeah,
you know, I could watch the shitty Bills drought forever.
Sundays are still getting together with your buddies or your family, having a couple beers. It's something to do that I look forward to, even when the Bills are shitty. Also, I am much more locked in on draft prospects in the NFL. I don't know any of the fucking hockey prospects. So every year during the Bills drought, by November, I'm watching college football, seeing this guy will look good playing for the Bills. Obviously, I'm not watching Northwestern University in hockey or some shit out in Sweden like Chris Baker is watching and knowing these young kids. So that means that means a lot. So for that reason, with the Sabres, I just stopped caring. You know, during the first, like, say, 10 years of the Bills drought, like, if I missed a Sabres game, I would DVR it. And then I'd watch it, and I would try to stay off social media. Well, there really wasn't much social media than the first half of the Bills drought anyway. Thank God, actually. But I watched the games. I watched all the games, and I looked forward to them. Now I don't care. I really don't. Yeah. I don't even care about this team. Going to the arena sucks. Going to a Sabres game used to be fun. Going to the games now suck. They're boring. The crowd sucks. And don't get me wrong, this team has sucked, so they've sucked the life out of the fan base. This isn't me necessarily trying to rip on the fans. They don't got much to cheer about. But it's almost like a funeral.
It sucks because like last year, and look, last year I watched more and they seemed like a fun team.
They were good last year. That makes this year worse.
This year they figured out their goaltending. Like, UPL's not terrible, and then they can't score anymore, or they can't score power play goals. Seems like to be the issue. But yeah, it's just look, they got the 3-game winning streak. Maybe I'll try to watch another game or two. But
they still got a 1% chance of making the playoffs right now. Still 1%.
Yeah. Well, at least I just want to, yeah, it's just unreal. It's fucking, I can't believe it's going to be like 13, 14 years. It's unreal.
13. They're tied with the New York Jets. I chose the Sabres as the more frustrating one because, like I said, they managed to make me stop caring. I have hate watched the Sabres. Like I said, I've been really nasty about the organization on the podcast. I only truthfully watch the Sabres now because I need to at least be somewhat informed to have some hockey talk on some of these episodes. Like, if I didn't have Talking Buffalo, I'm not sure I would have watched 5 Sabre games this year. Seriously, they're just, well, that's not true because last year they gave us a lot of promise. So I was really locked in this year. But over the last couple months, I don't care. I've rooted for them to lose a few times. Not because I want them to tank for a better draft pick, just because I'm fucking sick.
I just, like I said, I haven't, and part of it is, like I said, my situation with having a fucking newborn and all that stuff has affected it. But yeah, I'm just kind of why? And then, like, you know, and even like, it's just, I can't get over how it was like during COVID and like how they were like we're done. Like we're not putting more money into this, and they fired everyone, and it was kind of like, oh, you dicks. But I hope we all hope they do, because I definitely, it is in my blood. Like I grew up watching the Sabres, so it's not, I'm not like a fucking band. I will be a bandwagon fan if they get good and I jump on it, but like I always was there for like all of it. And I can tell you about like the 90s and 2000s and even like the early part of the drought of like what went right, what went wrong. But it is what it is.
When football season would end, I would just get completely locked in on the Sabres, and I'm just
sure
they've lost me at this point, and it's just not like that anymore. All right, so we've barreled in on a 90-minute podcast there. That's how you know. That's how you know Joe's back. But I actually want to spend a quick 5 minutes, and then we're done. Again, you are a wrestling guy.
My wife's going to kill me probably, but go for it. Go ahead.
Probably. Just WrestleMania seems pretty set up right now. Just like I said, 5 minutes or less. I want to get your take on what you're thinking, like how the card's looking. I'm not going to talk AEW. We don't have time to talk it. Plus, I don't watch it enough to really have takes on AEW. But WrestleMania seems pretty much set now after the show this weekend in Australia. How you feeling about the direction that WWE's going right now? By the way,
I feel
Tiffy Time. Tiffy Time's my girl, dude. I am going to be so all in.
Oh, you like Tiffany Stratton?
I love her, and I love her attitude. I love the gimmick. I love Tiffy Time. I've checked WWEshop.com a few times. The second that hoodie drops, a Tiffy Time hoodie, I am 100% buying it. But anyway, all right, go ahead. Your thoughts.
I think it's been great. I think it's been great since Vince McMahon left, and like the first time he left, and then like Triple H has been great with booking everything and everything. It's just everything means something. It's like a slow burn. Of like everything is not like, you can tell like they have a plan. Like you watched Elimination Chamber, they had a plan. They were like, okay, we're setting up Randy Orton, Aaron Paul, and then we're setting AJ and LA Knight. And they have so many great faces right now. Then they like it's an amazing era right now of like LA Knight, Jey Uso, Cody is so over. Like they have all these guys. So I hope they seem to be doing a tag match with Cody and Seth Rollins against The Rock and Roman. I think that's great. Like, give me that the first night. And then like Cody finishes the story finally the next night. And they'll probably put some stakes on there, like in terms of like, I can picture them maybe bringing Drew McIntyre kind of into the fold. Maybe Drew like becomes friends with The Rock, and Rock is like, I see a lot of potential in you, brother, or whatever, because he's on the board now, and I feel like they're going to play up that entire storyline of the board, and like, because The Rock's on the board now, and like, I could see a future with you. And then you have the Triple H dynamic with Triple H and The Rock, like not getting along with each other because of their rivalry from 20 fucking years ago. And it looks great. I think the only person I don't know what they're going to do, and I love this guy, Gunther. I love Gunther. I think he's the man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The shit with Brock changed that. He was definitely going.
Yeah, he was going, and Brock, that fucking idiot Brock. that would have been awesome. Brock versus him. That would have been that would have been rad. And I can see maybe Gunther doing maybe Braun Breaker, or Sami Zayn. I'll say this though, because like, unless do you have anything to say? Why don't you like CM Punk? Why do you got to mess with my boy? I love CM Punk. I love him. Why do you got to shit on him?
I just don't think he's I don't think he's a great wrestler. He was great on the mic. He still is good on the mic. I'll give him that. Again, we don't have time to get into my AEW thoughts and his time in AEW.
You just don't think he's a good wrestler.
He looks like, I'll say this. He seems like he is legitimately happy right now in his life being in WWE. The locker room, which I thought might be an issue, the fans for sure. It feels to me, even in his interviews, that he seems like he's in a really good place right now. Not sure if he was a year or so ago. He was doing good work. It sucks that he got hurt, because him and Seth Rollins, that was going to be big ass money, man. That was going to be great. Was definitely where they were headed towards that. That would have been great to see. Drew McIntyre's done a really good job though, picking up that ball because of CM Punk getting hurt. So I will say that.
Drew's been great as a heel. He has been fucking awesome. Like
I gotta start doing some wrestling video YouTube only episodes. Like they're not really podcasts because people really don't give a shit about wrestling. But there's an audience on YouTube I know that like to talk.
We should do a watch along. Maybe you could put the YouTube thing, like the wrestling thing, like do a 3-screen thing, and we watch it. And all you gotta do is put an effect over, and YouTube won't take it down. Yeah, that's what they do on the fucking Conrad. Shit.
Yeah, they do that. Eric Bischoff with his show. Bruce Pritchard, they do some of those too.
And you and I could do a watch along. We can watch we could watch the '87 Andre versus Hogan, whatever. Give our commentary. Since I feel like between you and I, we're like you're like Gorilla Monsoon, and I'm like Bobby Heenan a little bit.
You're a meaner Bobby Heenan. Let's not forget the spirit of the first 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Anyway. Didn't go, will you stop? Anyways. Yeah, we should stop, by the way. It's over.
Yeah, we're stopping now. This is it's gonna do it for today. Follow Joe on Twitter. I don't.
No, don't follow me on Twitter.
But you should, not me. At Buffalo Wins.
Send your hate tweets to Pat if you don't like what you're hearing. Engagement.
It was interesting having John, man.
Look, we were adults. You're much better at taking my shit than I am probably for taking your shit. So I appreciate you having me on a little bit. And yeah. So I don't want to say I'm back, but I'm creeping along, creeping back in. Maybe we'll see what happens. We'll see who DMs Pat after this and like complains and goes, "You had him on. I'm not coming to get pizza and wings with you anymore." No, I'm just kidding. But
all right, I'll tell you what, that's a perfect place to leave this show. And tomorrow's show, by the way, I'm going to have Ryan Cozio from WGR talk Buffalo Sabres and just the Sabres broadcast.
I like Ryan Cozio. So in case you think I don't like anyone, I like him. He's a good guy.